We haven't had smooth luck with Canada. In fact, this could be one of those cases where tariffs don't stop trade. They just raise costs, and consumers end up paying the difference. History gives us a reminder. In 2017, North America experienced the so-called Great Potato Chip Shortage. That episode revealed just how fragile everyday foods can become when supply chains falter. With decades of cross-border trade binding the US and Canada, any disruption today carries even higher stakes. Officials admit the adjustment will sting in the short term, but they insist resilience will win out over time. It often begins quietly. A single crate goes missing, a fryer runs empty, and suddenly a snack turns into an economic case study. Within weeks, potato shipments across the border thinned enough that restaurants cut portions before the public even noticed. Prices edged up, menus changed, and comfort food felt less comforting. Regulators stayed cautious, processors scrambled schedules, and truck drivers stopped showing up at usual depots. Something deeper was shifting, though not in the way many assumed. That hidden cause is what we'll uncover later in this video. First, let's trace the journey of a potato from soil to skillet and see why a single policy decision can ripple through warehouses, restaurants, and household budgets faster than most people realize. And before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to Traveling Vibes. It helps the channel grow and ensures you never miss in-depth breakdowns like this one. For decades, a dependable rhythm kept fries on American tables. Canadian farmers, especially in cooler provinces, specialized in potato varieties bred for frying. High starch, low moisture, ideal for crisp texture. Harvests were stored in climate-controlled facilities, then sent to processors who washed, cut, blanched, and froze the products. Shipments crossed the border into nearby U.S. states, where long winters meant steady demand. This wasn't novelty. It was logistics perfected. Farmers planned contracts months ahead. Drivers mapped efficient routes. Short hauls minimized spoilage and kept costs predictable. Restaurants relied on that flow. A case could move from storage in Manitoba to a grill in Minnesota within a day. That trust stabilized prices and ensured uniform quality. Then policy shifted. Tariffs on imported potato products. Officially, the goal was to shield U.S. growers and narrow trade deficits. In practice, the impact landed where it mattered most, on the bill and on the plate. A case that once cost $22 could approach $30. Fries priced at $3.50 climbed toward $5.25. Regional variations existed, but the trend was clear. Higher costs. Businesses had to choose: absorb losses, shrink servings, alter recipes, or seek new suppliers. Take a single container as an example. Before tariffs, a mid-size processor might ship frozen fries worth $32,000. With a levy of roughly one-third plus insurance and handling, the landed cost rose by more than $10,000. That burden didn't disappear. It cascaded through distributors, restaurants, and finally customers. Large chains negotiated contracts to cushion the blow, but independent diners, school cafeterias, and local franchises had little protection. They trimmed portions, changed seasoning blends, or reformulated menus. Fries remained by name, but the texture, taste, and even portion size revealed how trade policy had quietly reshaped a staple of everyday life. Behind the scenes, there was no dramatic border closure, just a cascade of small adjustments. Processors trimmed contract volumes. Warehouses prioritized domestic buyers. Brokers pulled back from forward contracts. Drivers slowed cross-border runs amid uncertainty. Individually, these shifts looked minor. Collectively, they thinned a once reliable pipeline into a slow drip. From a distance, it resembled halted trade. Up close, it was thousands of micro-decisions compounding into structural change. The dining experience reflected that shift. Fry quality hinges on variety, starch-to-sugar ratios, and precise partial fry methods. When restaurants replaced Canadian imports with domestic alternatives, texture, color, and crispness changed. Cooks recalibrated timers and fryer temperatures, but consistency slipped during peak hours. Some kitchens masked the difference with loaded toppings. Others cut portion sizes. Customers noticed, often without knowing why, and managers saw the impact in reviews, order patterns, and repeat business. On the farm side, growers recalibrated acreage. Major processors lowered purchase forecasts, signaling less demand for fry-grade potatoes. Mid-sized farms responded by planting fewer acres for processing and shifting toward table varieties suited for grocery shelves or potatoes bred for boiling and roasting. Surpluses that once flowed into frozen supply chains were redirected into food programs, with provincial and state subsidies offsetting transport costs. These quiet adjustments reduced waste while supporting local food security. Margins stayed thin, but each redirected load kept product in circulation and stabilized communities through the transition. Importers in northern U.S. states faced a difficult calculation: remain with Canadian suppliers and raise menu prices, or pivot to domestic fries that carried wider variation in cut, storage life, and consistency. Many chose a hybrid: domestic fries for everyday service, premium imports reserved for signature items. That patchwork strategy complicated kitchens, forcing staff to recalibrate fryers depending on which case was opened. Canadian processors adapted by looking outward. With U.S. demand softened, they redirected shipments to domestic chains and probed markets in Asia, island economies, and tourism hubs. Some invested in added freezing capacity to handle diverse specifications. Others tested retail-ready packs aimed at households seeking value. These moves were incremental, trialed in limited runs before scaling. Policy debates remained muted. Trade officials framed tariffs as one tool within a broader strategy. Agriculture agencies tracked potato price indexes, noting distortions beyond baseline inflation. Industry groups filed briefs, underscoring the need for predictable supply chains. The shift carried no headline drama, just measured adjustments. Policy set the ripple, markets absorbed the shock, and every link of the chain, from farm to fryer, adjusted in turn. Here's the part we foreshadowed. The real slowdown wasn't triggered by a ban, it was driven by risk. Tariffs created uncertainty in an industry built on thin margins and tight schedules. Perishables can't wait out ambiguity. To limit exposure, companies scaled back. Smaller orders, shorter contracts, postponed expansions. No border was closed. Market logic tightened the flow. Canadian processors shifted accordingly. Domestic outlets became priority, with campaigns highlighting local sourcing and new packaging designed to extend shelf life. Surpluses were directed into schools and community kitchens, holding retail prices steady while giving farmers secure outlets. Exporters pursued diversification, trialing shipments to Asia, island economies, and regional hubs. Plants upgraded lines to produce crinkles, wedges, and specialty cuts tuned to consumer demand. In the face of uncertainty, flexibility became the business model. As we close this story, one thing becomes clear. The fight over potatoes was never just about food. It was about power, leverage, and the future of trade between two countries whose economies are tied closer than most care to admit. Canada played its hand with precision, and the United States, despite its dominance, found itself on the defensive. What started as a simple shipment dispute has turned into a symbol of how fragile global trade can be when pride and politics are at stake. If you found this story insightful, remember to subscribe to Traveling Vibes for more deep dives into the global issues shaping our world.